Recording progress.
Okay, so welcome everyone to Psalms for Life. We're learning Sefer Tehillim, the book of Psalms, with insights from Rebbe Nachman of Breslov and others. And our sponsor, Esther Elagorovich, cannot be here today. And we want to dedicate this class to her father because he isn't doing very well. And we are going to be davening for him to have a Refuah Sheleimah. And if you turn on your chats, everyone, that would be great if you could turn on your chat feature, and you'll see some names. The name to keep in mind to begin with is Chaim ben Nechama V'Nachum, okay? And we really want him to have a Refuah Sheleimah. And we will be missing Esther in our class. Okay, so today's psalm is chapter 9. And this particular psalm is really heavy on the etymological juice. And you all know that I really love the exploring the Hebrew words, especially with Rav Hirsch, who really gives us a lot of insights. And but I try not to go too heavy on it because it's a little geeky. But today I can't help myself. So you'll bear with me. Okay. So first of all, the Segulot associated with this psalm is, again, for a child crying, like last week, in order to soothe a child's crying, and also for protection against enemies. Now, we know there is a legitimate external Segulot that we're saying the psalm for protection against very real physical enemies, but keeping in mind Rebbe Nachman's psycho-spiritual approach, we focus heavily on the inner psycho-spiritual enemies, the things that try to take us down, the Yetzer Hara, who uses all those weapons of depression, anger, doubt and lack of Emunah, beating ourselves up, low self-esteem, jealousy, so on and so forth. Everybody has their own personalized list. And so we say the psalm also to help us with these enemies. Now, the psalm begins, Lam natzech al mus labein mizmor leDavid. And it's translated in a few different ways. I'm going to use a standard translation from Art Scroll for this. For the conductor, and everybody remembers from previous classes, Lam Natseach, for the conductor, on the death of Laban, a song, a zemer of David, Mizmor leDavid. Okay, so let's start looking at this, okay? This particular psalm addresses so many aspects of not only King David's life, but our own lives, and also world history, that it's astonishing. So we'll begin with this idea is to remember that the word Laban, and let's examine it. Laban can mean one of David's enemies that they possibly called Laban. It can also refer to Ben, son, and this would be referring to a few things. One would be David's first son with Bathsheba, who died in infancy. It could be referring to Avshalom, and if you look at previous classes, you know, boy, what a difficult child Avshalom was. He wanted to kill his father. Okay, it could be referring to him. It can be referring to several things. But we're going to take a few of the meanings and focus on these aspects of the psalm. The first is Laban, and we're going to use that word to mean the Son in general, the Son of God. The Son of God is a very Jewish expression that has been co-opted we won't worry about the co-opters. We're going to focus on the idea that the Son of God always refers to Yisrael. What is Yisrael? The Jewish nation. So this psalm is telling us that that it is about the Jewish nation, the Jewish people. That's number one. Next, the word labain is related to what word? Lavan, to whiten, to clean, to brighten. So this is a psalm that we can associate with this idea of whitening, purifying, refreshing, and cleaning. Who is it cleaning? It's cleaning not only us, the Jewish people, it's cleaning the world, okay? David's prayers are here for us, for everyone to tap into, to brighten and whiten their souls, okay? It's scrubbing us, so to speak, okay? Continuing with this theme of Lavan is also the idea that Hashem tests our purity, okay? He tests our purity. Now, anybody who's going through any difficulties in life, and I think that everybody could raise their hands because there are always difficulties in life, we tend as human beings to associate our difficulties with, on the surface, the rest of the world. They're causing us problems. It's the government, it's my neighbor, it's my spouse, so and so and so forth. Okay. Or we can associate it with something along the lines of Hashem, he isn't helping me. I feel like I'm being punished. I feel like things are so heavy for me. I feel like things are so heavy for everyone I know, and so on and so forth. Very common thought. Or we can think about this in another way, this lavan, this whiteness. I am able to achieve a higher level of purity, refinement, focus on the spiritual than I'm currently at. I'm able to achieve a higher level. My enemies are trying to stop me, maybe outer enemies, there may be, but also inner enemies. And this is something I need to keep in mind because I'm not fulfilling my potential. So the idea is lam natseach, almus laben mizmor LaDavid, for the conductor, with this idea of laben, on the death of Laban. Almus is one translation. We're going to talk about almus in a minute. Or for the idea of we need to whiten ourselves. We need to purify ourselves. We need to focus on what the Son of God, the Jewish people, okay, and all sons, what we are capable of as individuals, as a nation. This is a psalm that's exhorting us to keep in mind the situation of the whole world and not let it determine how we view ourselves, certainly not spiritually. Okay, we'll continue. Now, the next, I just want to actually maybe add one more thing. Okay, so the next word it comes before Laban, but we had to discuss that first. The word that comes before that is actually, in most translations, printed as two words, almus, okay, which has its own meaning, okay. It can mean like almos, which means the death of Laban, if we're going back to the simple meaning of this verse and this word. And it can also mean, I'm digressing a minute. We have to remember that embedded in not only every psalm, but every phrase, every sentence, every word, every letter, there are Kabbalistic mystical meanings embedded in Psalms. Psalms is one of the most obviously Kabbalistic books of Tanakh. And here, embedded in these Hebrew meanings, we're going to get out some of the mystical meanings. So for example, this word almus is, for those of you who know a little Hebrew, it obviously resonates with the word alamos, worlds, okay? So we can now explore this as this idea of there are worlds connected with our purity. There are worlds connected with the Son of Israel, the Jewish people. There are worlds connected with us personally. There are many worlds. What are these worlds? Okay. So these worlds can be the worlds, the Kabbalistic worlds, the four worlds, and so on. But they can also be referring to our souls. We are told by the tzaddikim, by Chazal, by Rebbe Nachman, each person is an olam. Each person is a world. Okay, you are a world. You have a neshama, you're a world unto yourself. And this whole idea of tying in your world and the worlds of Yisrael as a whole, okay, this whole idea is to get us to see our potential, if we want to read into what David HaMelech is saying, in order to refine our worlds, uplift our worlds, correct our worlds, and value our worlds. This opening sentence, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna try to really keep my excitement about it down a little bit. This opening sentence is amazing. So many levels to see in just this sentence, just this verse. So we can take from this a meaning like, this is the psalm to the conductor. I am a world, and I need to see how I can lavan, to be whitened, how I can purify myself, uplift myself, refine myself, clean myself of all the detritus and debris and schmutz that accumulates in my lifetime. Most of what accumulates is internal, because whatever's happened externally, we internalize it. So David is going to introduce us to this idea of cleaning worlds. Okay, keep that in mind. Also, almos can be death. It can be referring to, okay, it's almus, but we could change the vowel to almos. It can be referring to the next world. That's what death is. And it can also be related to this idea of what world is related to, the same root, elem, this world of hiddenness, concealment. What we see on the surface isn't all that's there. There's a famous thing. I don't know if it's actually true, but everybody's heard this. It's a famous meme. It's been around since before memes were invented, which is, oh, we only use 1% of our brains. Who knows if that's true? But what we do know is true is we only probably use a few percent of our souls. Okay. And this psalm is going to open us to this idea of using our minds, using our hearts to improve the states of our neshamas, to refine ourselves in a very positive way. Okay. Next, we're going to go to the second verse. Okay. Ode Hashem b'chol libi asabra kol niflosecha. I will thank Hashem with all my heart, and I will tell of all your wonders, all his wondrous deeds. Okay. So we get to this point where we're open to the idea of improvement, of refinement. Okay. And now we're going to the idea of David HaMelech, King David, is going to immediately jump into thanking Hashem with his heart and proclaiming his wonders. His wonders to who? To his enemies. Okay, because it's, again, on a very real historical level, we discussed his enemies previously in classes, to his enemies, okay, to his spiritual enemies, and because the entire book of Psalms was written for us, okay, to our enemies. And we are going to address all of that. How? With all of our hearts. In other words, honestly, with integrity, with feeling, with love, okay? And by proclaiming all his wonders, by proclaiming all of Hashem's wonders. Now, with this verse, I want to bring out something that Rebbe Nachman says. Many of you know it. He reminds us, Hashem wants the heart. Now, we know that we spend a lot of time in intellectual learning as Jews, okay? We do. The expression Yiddish Kopf, okay, a Jewish head means a head that's a thinker, a smart head with seichel, with intellect. But included in this, or what should be included in this, is that connection between our head and our heart. Rebbe Nachman says in quite a few places that it's a very poor excuse for a mensch who only takes in the Torah intellectually. So how do you know if somebody's taken into their heart? Because they're trying to apply it. It's not just our feeling. Okay, our feeling's important, but we're trying to apply it. We're trying to live it step by step, slowly, little by little. We're going to refine. We're going to whiten. Okay, we're going to purify in order that we express to Hashem that we have this in our heart. And now David is going to be proclaiming verbally in the rest of the psalm all Hashem's wonders. Okay, but how do we do it? Well, we can talk about Hashem for sure. We should always talk about Hashem. Even the people who we meet casually, you could say on the street, somebody, you run into somebody, you're having a casual conversation, or somebody in a clerk in a store, and you can say, somebody says, how are you today? Thank God I'm okay. Good. You've proclaimed Hashem's wonders in your own way. But the other way we do that is by living our hearts, living our truth, which is the truth of Torah. Anytime you go, you give tzedakah, you return a lost item, even holding a door for someone or smiling at someone is a way to proclaim Hashem. Because why? What are the wonders of Hashem? So many. David is speaking here about slaughtering all his enemies. Well, for us, what are the wonders in our life? We wake up, we draw a breath, our hearts beat, we have food, we have shelter, we have a soul, we can experience our connection to Hashem. We have people we love, we have people who love us. So many wonders, so much goodness in this life and in this world. There's a famous story about a Rabbi Avigdor Miller, and his grandson walked in on him one day, and Rabbi Miller had his head in a sink of water. Okay, and his grandson was like, "What are you doing, Zadie? What are you doing? You're going to drown!" And his grandfather went up, and he took a deep breath, and he said, "I just wanted to have the experience of appreciating what it means that I can take a breath." There's more stories about many more rabbis and tzaddikim and sages who do things like this, but this was unique. I mean, this was really our generation. So very unique person, very unique character. So, how do we get back to ground zero? So remember when you were a child. Remember when you were a child. Just close your eyes and think about it. And remember being a little girl, and remember waking up in the morning as a small child. And remember looking out your bedroom window, maybe seeing springtime or snow, wintertime, and you see the first snow, you see the first flowers, and your favorite breakfast is going to appear, pancakes or whatever it is, and how each little thing gave you so much joy. You had so much enthusiasm. That's how to live. And we can recapture that. We can recapture that. Okay. We have to work at it more, but we can recapture that with appreciation, with love, with gratitude towards Hashem for giving us this life. Okay. What time is it? Okay. I've got to continue. I'm getting lost. I don't want to miss out on I don't want to miss out on anything. Okay, we're going to skim through some of the verses because there's no way we would get to all the verses in half an hour anyway. And we're going to, and you should know that verses, okay, we're going to skip verse, we're going to skip Gimel, we're going to skip verse 3, we're going to go 4 through 7, where David is speaking about how his enemies are destroyed, okay? And then we're going to gloss over verses 8 through 10, which is, listen, Hashem, he's forever, he's eternal. Remember that. And he judges the world with righteousness, and he's fair. And he's fair. And he is so fair, and he has so much love for us that he is going to be a fortress for us, okay? Misgav is the word David uses here, okay? When we're suffering, when we're crushed, when we're in distress, okay? This is why this psalm is a segulot for protection against our enemies. Hashem is a fortress for us, whether our enemies are external or internal. And this psalm is proclaiming to us he's a fortress. We can believe that we're surrounded by Hashem, and he's guarding us and he's protecting us. Okay. And it doesn't mean that upsetting things won't happen. This is the trick for most of us. The trick for most of us is wait a second, Hashem is my fortress. Hashem is there for me. I hear Hashem loves me, but I don't feel it because I'm suffering. So Rebbe Nachman says, you want to know that Hashem is your fortress? Develop das. What is das? So das or dat, we use that term to mean knowledge, intelligence, and so on. Oh, that person has no das, or this person has a lot of das. But Rebbe Nachman really uses this word in terms of developing a holy awareness, a real awareness that Hashem is with us every moment. In order to have that awareness, two things need to be in place. One is we must have some Torah knowledge, because the Torah knowledge is essential to appreciating Hashem's greatness. We can appreciate Hashem's greatness very simply. We can see, oh, look, Hashem created sunrise and sunset. It's magnificent. He created me. Isn't that a wonder? But if we want to have this element of das, we have to have some intellectual knowledge. And then also, we have to develop our own Emunah and Bitachon, our own faith and trust in God. Because when we work on that, that also contributes to our das. We think of das as something intellectual or knowledge separate from all that other stuff, but it's not. It's an expression. This holy awareness, this intelligence is actually an expression of intellectual Torah knowledge. Okay, but we're exploring the psalm today. We've all gained some intellectual knowledge and our own work on faith and trust in God. They all have to be in place. And the Rebbe tells us, when we want to experience Hashem as a fortress, when we want to have an alleviation from our suffering and feel protected, even if we're going through a hard time, we will have that alleviation if we feel das, if we experience das. We have that holy awareness, that intelligence, that special kind of intelligence that recognizes Hashem in every moment of our lives. The suffering is alleviated. And this is why, if you're going through suffering, please Hashem, nobody should be going through suffering. We have to call Hashem to mind constantly. And this is why we say Tehillim, because Tehillim calls Hashem to mind. Every time you pick up Sefer Tehillim, it calls Hashem to mind in the simplest meaning of the words. Just saying the pshat, you're going to have that experience. Okay, next. Let's get through this. Okay. 11 through 13, we'll skip. Okay, 14, verse 14. Okay, verse 14. Okay, Chanani Hashem re'ei anyi, misanai miromami misha'arei maves. Be gracious to me, or have mercy on me, or we could use any of those. It's really related to chen, grace, but it also means have mercy on me. You who sees my affliction from my foes, you who have already pulled me away from the gates of death. So how does Hashem pull David away from the gates of death? So we know David's story from reviewing it previously, but also us. We're pulled away from the gates of death. How many times? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know how many times Hashem has saved us. Many times. Why has he saved us? Because of his love for us. But more importantly, chananeni, okay, because of his grace, his chen. What is grace? Grace is a free gift. Grace is, I'm not taking care of you because you've done good deeds and I'm rewarding you. I'm not taking care of you because you deserve it. No, I'm taking care of you because I'm gracious. Okay? Chanun, Hashem is a chanun, right? He's gracious. He's taking care of you. He's taking care of me because he loves us and he's giving us this free gift of care and life. Okay, we're going to continue a little bit. Where are we? I'm going to be skipping so we can fit all of this in and still have time to say Tehillim today. Okay, we're going to go, and by the way, when we have a much longer psalm than this, we'll probably divide it into 2 classes. I spoke with Esther about that, and she asked me to. So, okay, we're going into this verse test sign, verse 16. So the idea is in this verse is that David is saying nations have sunk into bishachas, okay, that they have made. They've sunk into the pit that they have made. Shachas isn't always the word we use for pit. We also use the word bore for pit. There are other related words as well. But shachas conveys destruction, okay? It conveys this idea. It's not just a physical pit. It's an absolute destruction, trauma, damage, okay? Nations, the world, they've sunk into the pit that they have made. And they become hidden in this pit. And they become trapped in this pit. Their foot becomes trapped in this pit. What is this idea here? So Rebbe Nachman tells us something really interesting. He says that whenever we're speaking of this idea, and this is a reference in the Aleph Beis book and in other lessons of the Rebbe, we speak of this idea of destruction and the pit. The idea is that it's self-made. And here it says nations have sunk into the pit, b'shachas, inside this destruction, which is implying self-made destruction, okay? Hashem gives everybody the opportunity to come to him. We were learning in yesterday's class, in the Parsha class, and you're welcome to watch it. It's on YouTube, and I'll give you the link to my YouTube channel. We were learning that that Paro was given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to do tshuva. So were the Egyptians. Hashem is merciful. Hashem loves all his creations. Everybody was created by Hashem. Everything was created Hashem. Is there a creation that doesn't have some love from Hashem? No. No, Hashem gives everything and everybody the opportunity to do the right thing, to turn to Hashem and say, you know what? I know I've done wrong. Now let me turn to you. Because why? Because Chanun, Hashem is gracious. You're going to forgive me for no other reason than I'm your creation. You love me. You love me. And of course, if we're referring to Alabain, this idea of Yisrael, Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, we know that there is a special dimension of love there. Okay. And Hashem gives people the opportunity, but he also gives them the opportunity for people to fail in their own self-made traps. And when Pharaoh reached a point at which he tipped over the edge, where teshuvah was always still possible, would be very, very difficult because he kept pushing and harming and refusing to let the Jews go and making their work harder and causing them suffering and even shedding blood, Hashem said, I'm going to harden his heart. What does that mean? We are all led down the path we wish to go. If we are headed in a direction and that's what we want, positive or negative, that's the path that Hashem is going to open for us. He's going to make that path easier for us. Okay, now it's true. Sometimes you're headed in a good path and all of a sudden obstacles arise. Don't worry, the obstacles aren't there to stop you from following the good path. The obstacles are there to increase your yearning to follow the good path, says Rebbe Nachman. Okay, let's see if we can fit in any more. Okay, my handwriting, I should have typed. Okay, Rebbe Nachman, verse 19. Let's go, verse 19. Thank you for bearing with me while I find everything. Okay. Kilo lanetzach yishachach evyon tikvas anim tovad lad. Okay, so for the needy, because the needy will not be forgotten forever. Okay, they won't be forgotten, and neither will the hope of the poor be lost to eternity. So when we speak about the needy and the poor and the suffering and the downtrodden, okay, and our poor little neshama inside who doesn't get the love from us that it really needs, we need to take care of that poor little neshama inside. Okay, when David uses the word lanetzach, okay, if a person forgets the plight of the needy, and that means the physically poor and the spiritually poor, then he will never be menatseach, victorious. But if we remember others and include in that others, those poor people, our poor neshamas, we have to include everybody in that, okay, we will be menatseach. We will be victorious. We will have this aspect of eternality, because what does Rebbe Nachman say? He says victory is never victory unless netzach is never netzach unless it's menatzeach. Okay, it has to be a victorious victory. It has to be a victory that contains an element of eternality. Victory that's temporary isn't a victory. So what's the ultimate victory? So for the neshama, the ultimate victory is a mitzvah. Why? Because a mitzvah is eternal. Just as the neshama has that aspect of eternality because of its divine connection and origin. So we had a little taste of this beautiful psalm today. Really, I hope I didn't geek out too much. I had about 30 more words I wanted to focus on, but hopefully that that brought a measure of understanding to you and to the psalm. And I want you to please type in names. We're going to go through our special psalms today. We're going to say Psalm 9, and then we're going to say the psalm for today. It's the first half of Psalm 119, which is Aleph through Lamed, and the Segulot for it is, I seem to have not written it down, so I'm going to find it. The Segulot for Psalm 119 is, 1 minute. Remember, it's Aleph through Lamed. It's the first half. In your Sefer Tehillim, in your book of Psalms, it'll be divided up. It'll say day 25 and day 26. Today is the 25th of Teves. And it is a psalm to say for protection for travel, even just going out on a short journey, a short trip, protection from harm, and for success in a court case. That's the segulas for Psalm 119. So please, again, type in the names that you want us to daven for Refuah Sheleimah into the chat room so we can keep those names in mind. We're going to keep in mind Esther Eller, our dear sponsor's father, Chaim ben Nechama Nachum, and please keep in mind Naomi Shasha ben Bas Shalamis, for Refuah Sheleimah. And if you have names to add, please add names. Okay, let's do it now. No names? Okay, so everybody, we're going to say Psalm 9, and then we're going to say the first half of Psalm 119. I'm going to turn off the recording.